was that?
Hello, camper. My name is Rick. How are you doing?
Well, I'm pissed off, Rick. How are you?
Who's responsible for this? I demand that you show yourself. Who are you? Huh?
I will ruin this house with my anger!
You want to know what I think?
Well, yeah.
You son of a bitch! It's a travesty! I will kill you!
All right, come on. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. Come on, Joe.
No,
Okay, come on.
Okay, all right.
Careful, Peter.
Oh, boy.
Welcome back to the Drive Home Reviews podcast, where I review the movies I have just seen as I am driving home from the theater. And, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, fair listeners, friends, if you cannot tell by that lovely collection of audio clips that preceded my coming on the air, I am fucking livid right now. I am beside myself with fury and rage at the god-awful abomination that I have just sat through. I am actually going back and revitalizing several past Drive Home Reviews formats for this review. I am dusting them off specifically for this film. For instance, regardless of what I say in my little tagline at the beginning, I actually do not review these films as I'm driving home from the theater anymore. It's how I used to do it, but over the past year or so, I have seen the benefit of giving myself a day or two to process the film, to think about it, plan out what I'm going to say a little bit more, let things settle. I can get actors' names and things. And I also have kind of a set release date. Now, I do these every Thursday. I try to get a review out every Thursday. Back in the day, especially in weeks when I would go and see 3 or 4 movies in a weekend, I would just pop them out whenever they were done. So, I am reverting backwards for this film. This film has earned that distinction because I cannot sit on the rage that I am feeling towards this movie, nor can I wait to unleash that rage out unto the world. In a way, I'm kind of thankful. You know, we're into June now, and we're almost halfway through the year. We're in the 6th month. And I was kind of looking back at all the movies I've seen so far this year and was thinking, you know, I really haven't seen that many out-and-out bad movies. Until this day, I had seen only one other genuinely horrific film. And the rest were that, you know, I haven't given out-and-out praise to, have been some variation of disappointing or not as good as they could have been, but nothing that sparked a fire of pure vitriol and hatred until this fucking movie. So, thank you, movie. Thank you. And, you know, I'm also going to thank this movie a little bit in advance. You know, I haven't talked about it. I don't like to air my dirty laundry, but I have had a pretty shit year and a half. Long story short, my entire life blew up in my fucking face through lies and backstabbing and betrayals. I have just watched my entire world, the life I thought I was going to have, has completely disintegrated in my arms. And, but it feels so good to have a movie to take it out on again. So buckle up, Juliet and Romeo, because you are about to unleash. Okay, so if you've never heard of this film, first of all, consider yourself fucking lucky. Second of all, let me give you a brief rundown. Yes, it is a new telling of the classic romance Romeo and Juliet. Only now it's called Juliet and Romeo. And the big hook this time is that it's a pop musical. Yay! So we've got a bunch of underwear models, singing generic pop songs. What it essentially is it's like if Disney, back in their Everything's a Musical heyday, their High School Musical, that zombie series, Camp Rock, I don't know what other ones there were, if they decided we're going to do a musical version of Romeo and Juliet. Now, on the surface, this is not itself a bad idea. Okay, Shakespeare's dialogue is inherently musical. It's written in prose, it's written in iambic pentameter, it's poetry. So, and given the time period in which he wrote, music was a huge part of the theatrical presentation. So making a musical out of Romeo and Juliet is not in and of itself a bad idea. There's some interesting things that can be done with it. They can be done with it. This movie does none of them. I don't even know where to start picking this thing apart. Okay, let's start with its major hook, that it's a more contemporary pop musical. It is some of the most boring, generic fucking music I have ever heard. Literally every fucking song sounds exactly the same. There is not one fucking original or interesting song that sticks in your head. Most musicals I have seen can at least lay claim to that even the worst musicals that I have sat through that I was like, this is pure and utter shit, usually have at least one song in them that you're like, wow, why can't the whole show be like this? Not this one. The closest it comes is that the apothecary, played by the guy from Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, who played the Muggle. I don't even remember his name. That's the other thing I'm going to say about this, and I mentioned it. I can't remember half of these people's fucking names, and I didn't give a shit enough to look them up before I came out here to do this. Because if this movie wasn't going to give a shit, why should I? So, sorry, not sorry. So anyway, yes, he has a musical number, which is a little bit like a patter song, and is at least has a little bit more character in it than any of the others. All the rest are just completely dull, dribble. They sound exactly the fucking same. So the hook that it is laying itself on is already crap. So you've already struck out in a major way. Let's talk about the actors next. Truthfully, if I have to give this movie any praise, there are two things I can say. Well, three. One, the cinematography is pretty good. It's energetic. The camera moves with the songs. They do some interesting dances and camera angles. So that was all pretty good. The costumes are very well put together. And if I'm being honest, there isn't really a bad performance in any of this. The actors are all okay to giving good performances. There's nobody I look at and say they are just shit in their roles. What I say are, the roles are shit. You know, where the film stands out is you do have legitimate actors like Derek Jacobi, Jason Isaacs, who are managing to hold this shit down. And because those are actors who are incapable of giving anything but 100%. So they are trying to lend legitimacy to this dog turd. And there are also a couple of scenes between characters that, you know, that are pretty good. But here's the major problem with this film. The major problem. It doesn't fucking get it. It misses the fucking point of Romeo and Juliet. Not just of the overall, but all the little things, all the little story beats. Do you know why we read Shakespeare in English classes? Do you know why we uphold him as this great writer? Because he was one of the first, maybe not the best, but he was one of the first and most prolific writers who gave us not only deeper and more three-dimensional characters than we had ever gotten before, but also was very intricate in the way his stories were presented. Now, most of his stories are, in the broad strokes, very simplistic. Romeo and Juliet is a very simplistic story again, in the broad strokes. What I mean by broad strokes is like the synopsis. If you were to read the basic synopsis of the story, it's very straightforward. But the plot details, why one scene follows another, why one thing happens, and how that causes a ripple effect throughout the rest of the film is very important and very strategically planned. And that was not the case in theater up until the Elizabethan era. So you pull on one of those threads, you rearrange scenes, you have events happen out of the sequence that they are supposed to be happening in, and it fucks up everything. Let me give you a couple of quick examples, and this is not the fault necessarily of the actress, so I want to stress that. The actress they have playing Juliet is 28 years old. And she looks it. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean about this. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to look mature. I'm saying that Juliet is supposed to be a kid, a teenager. I'm not saying that we should have a 12 or 13-year-old play it. I'm not making that argument. But one of the key elements of the way this story works is that it is love from the point of view of two children. People who have no real world experience with it and no understanding of the consequences of their actions. These are people who believe that their love can solve all of these problems, and, you know, that they can erase, you know, generations of anger and hatred because now they're in love, and they don't get why that doesn't work. Even everything up to the ending, the taking of their own lives, is based on that assumption that they are kids. And of course, that is a very teenager, over-dramatic solution to everything. So it fits. When you age Romeo and Juliet up, you fuck all of that up. If they are not teenagers, if they are adults, then the rash decisions they make don't make any fucking sense. As a matter of fact, this is one of the things that made me really mad about this. Recall back a few months ago when Disney dared to release that Snow White film and everybody acted like it was the worst case of cultural vandalism that ever came down the pike. Suddenly there were all these Snow White purists who, oh, they're ruining the character, oh, they're ruining the story, they altered it and they just don't get it. To all you people out there, shut the fuck up. And why aren't you making those same goddamn arguments about this piece of shit? Because every argument that was made about that goddamn Snow White movie, which again, I hold was not that fucking bad, is increased 1,000-fold in this monstrosity. Every single fucking one. The fact that they redo Juliet's character to make her a more independent and strong woman. Strong, independent woman. Again, it flies in the face of why the show worked and why the story worked the way it did. Other examples. Again, they switch out a lot of scenes and redo them in different times because they know we have to have the balcony scene. We know we have to have the masquerade. But they're like, well, fuck it. Let's just switch all this stuff around. Mercutio is now Romeo's adopted brother for some fucking reason. And when they do the duel with Tybalt, the whole point of that is supposed to be that Romeo is trying to get in between them to stop them fighting because they are now unknowingly a family, and Tybalt gets under his arm and kills Mercutio, and then in rage, Romeo kills Tybalt. Well, in this version, Tybalt and Mercutio are fighting behind like this gate, and Romeo they all think Romeo is dead. They all think he's drowned. I'm not going to get into the overcomplication of why that is true, but they think that he's drowned. Romeo shows up and goes, hey, stop. Mercutio turns around, sees him, is like, oh my God, and that's when Tybalt stabs him. So the tragedy of Romeo trying to bridge the gap, again, that teenage naivete that he can stop this blood feud with a few kind words and it ends in tragedy, is fucking gone. And one of the most pivotal scenes that set everything else in motion is now just, I distracted you during the fight and that's why you died. Fuck. The Family Guy. Family Guy did a parody of Romeo and Juliet not too long ago, and it got the fucking point more than this fucking thing. That Baz Luhrmann one from the 90s, that coked out, on speed version, because that's how Baz Luhrmann directs, that one got the point more than this fucking movie. And look, I am not a Shakespeare purist. I am not someone who believes that you can never mess with or adapt or update or reinterpret these stories. There have been some excellent examples of doing that. And there have been excellent examples of making them more palatable for a younger audience to get them interested in Shakespeare. Off the top of my head, two great examples. Gargoyles, the show from the 90s, which introduced characters like Macbeth, Iago, Othello, Desdemona, Desdemona, because they had that going on with Coldstone. Oberon, Titania, Puck, introduced them, kept the characters complex and interesting, and sprinkled in the Shakespeare references which made people like me watch and go, wow, I kind of want to know what the story is. And that's what kind of got me interested in Shakespeare, when I was not interested in it prior to that. Other examples, 10 Things I Hate About You. Great example of an updating of Taming of the Shrew, especially since Taming of the Shrew is a show that desperately needs updating. So it can be done. But two things have to be taken into account. Number one, you have to keep the complexity and the essence of the story in order for the things to make sense. And two, you have got to understand your audience and understand that kids can handle more complex stories and characters and moral issues. They can handle it more so than people give them credit for. You know what I hate as a theater professional and as a theater teacher? I hate No Fear Shakespeare. I hate those fucking books. And for those who don't know what No Fear Shakespeare is, they are books that come out that have the Shakespearean, the Elizabethan text on the one side of the page, and on the other side they have the translation, quote unquote, where they put it into modern speech. But they call it a translation, which is stupid as fuck because it's already in English. I hate those because they do not teach you how to read Shakespeare. If you want a better one, get the Folgers Library edition, where they have the Shakespearean text on the one side, but on the opposite side, they have definitions. They have explanations of references, like the Queen Mav thing. You know, they explain who Queen Mav is and what the hell he's talking about. So you understand what they're saying, but they're not spoon-feeding it to you. You know? And this movie is the fucking No Fear Shakespeare edition of Romeo and Juliet. And like anybody else, any of these other ones, it fucks it up. You know, it fucks it up. I feel sorry. I legitimately feel sorry for any kid who thinks they're going to watch this movie and then try to bluff their way through a Romeo and Juliet quiz in English.
Good night, kids. Good luck with those book reports.
But let's get to the real rage-inducing bit of this. I haven't even gotten to the real shit show of this, okay? Because up until the very end of this film, I was merely bored and kind of in awe of how bad it was. But I wasn't pissed off. And then the ending happens. Now, I am going to say that this may count as spoiler. I'm not even going to use my spoiler audio because I don't give a shit to. Because this, oh my fucking God. Okay. So, they do the ending. Everybody knows how Romeo and Juliet ends, right? And they're in the coffin, and they do the whole thing. Never was there a tale of more woe than that of Juliet and her Romeo. And then the movie is still going on. That's the other thing, just in case I didn't mention. They're trying to infuse it with this kind of Game of Thrones level of political intrigue and, you know, who's marrying who and getting power this way and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So the film is still going. I'm like, why? Shouldn't this be over? And things are happening, and I'm going, no, they're not going to. They're not gonna do it. They fucking did it. And what did they fucking do? They gave Romeo and Juliet a happy ending. Romeo and Juliet survive. And they escape. They go to live happily ever after. Fucking really? You didn't even have the conviction to see this thing through to its natural, tragic ending. The pain of young lives cut short, of love not being able to overtake decades or centuries of hatred, of two innocents lost in this great war, and the families learning the lesson of what this can truly cost them. All that fucking out the window so that we can get a fucking happy ending. Look, if you are gonna fuck with literature, if you're gonna fuck with it, at least have the goddamn balls to go all the way. But no, it has to have a happy ending. And why? Because this is baby's first Shakespeare. And we don't want people to be sad. We don't want people to be sad with the tragedy. Fuck you. Fuck you. As I've said, I am not a Shakespearean purist. But what I am is a person who believes through trial and error, through having done it myself, and learned the hard way, that you cannot fight the text. You cannot try to make a play about something that it is not about. Brick in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is gay. You try to make it where he's not gay, it defeats the entire fucking purpose. Okay? Inherit the Wind is about the battle of church, of belief and science. That is what it is about. When you try to layer other things on top of it, like gay rights or something else, and this is a production I legitimately saw, it doesn't work because that's not what it's about. You can find things in the subtext and you can find new interpretations, or you can draw parallels between what's going on then and what's going on now. That's why theater endures, and that's why it's important that we see new interpretations and we see new takes and we find new parallels. But when you are actively fighting against the point of the fucking play, then you are destroying it. And that is what this movie does. It fucks up at every conceivable level. This, to me, is what you get when someone thinks that they know better. And the end result is a slap in the face to everyone that this could have inspired, that the story has touched, that the story has influenced. It's a fucking slap in the face. And I'm sorry, you need tragic endings. Sometimes things don't end happy. Okay, I know that in this day and age, we want happy endings because Lord knows the world around us is so fucked up that maybe we just want to win every now and then. But the reason Shakespeare's plays and his tragedies have endured is because they have weight and the tragedy means something. Having Hamlet live in the end defeats the purpose. And there have been, just like the examples I gave, there have been examples of plays or works that have taken the premise of what if Romeo and Juliet lived and used that to explore different facets of the play and the characters. There's an excellent play called Good Night Desdemona, Good Morning Juliet, where this Shakespearean scholar finds that she gets sucked into the tragedies of Shakespeare, specifically Othello and Romeo and Juliet, and with the best of intentions stops the tragedies from happening. And then discovers that, these stories only work with their tragic ending. Romeo and Juliet, when they are stopped from dying, find that they are in fact just two fucking children who knew each other for a day and then ran off and got married.
And so, two people who danced together one time entered into an ill-advised long-term relationship. And they lived happily ever after for 7 months and then separated with the goal of fixing themselves and getting back together. They got into a huge fight when his mom got sick, and now they don't even follow each other on Twitter. The end.
And there is comedy in that, and there is some insight into the work in that. But that takes fucking intelligence. It takes someone who understands the source material at a basic fundamental level, and not someone, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. And then to add insult to injury, yes, this gets fucking worse. I'm not lying about this. You will swear, I told this to my parents after I watched it, and they were like, you're joking. No, I'm not joking. So Romeo and Juliet live. The picture goes into the old-timey illustration, signaling that the end credits are about to begin. And you know what it says? It says, Juliet and Romeo will be back in Juliet and Romeo Book 2. This fucking thing has the audacity to think it's making a fucking sequel. That it's now going to do Romeo and Juliet Part 2.
Star Trek 12. So very tired. See the original cast in their latest, greatest adventure.
He's back. And this time, he's mad. Gandhi 2.
Tonight, Clint Eastwood returns as Dirty Harry in Beverly Hills Robo Canine Cop and a Half 2.
God willing, we'll all meet again in Spaceballs 2 to search for more money.
And if, like those examples that I just played for you, if this was a parody, if this was a fucking joke, then okay. Yeah, fine. Ha ha ha. Romeo and Juliet 2, yeah, funny. It's not. That's the thing. This movie is 100% serious. It's not there. The tongue is not even remotely in the cheek. Not even a little bit. They are 100% fucking serious about this shit. Oh, and when that all happened, that's when the rage overtook me, and I had to leave my apartment in the middle of the night and do this review right fucking now. So, there it is. You know what the really sad part about all of this is that, do you want to see this done right? This film can be done correctly. Go watch the Peter Dinklage version of Cyrano. And yeah, that one has some of the same issues in that a lot of the songs are very samey, but there are also songs in that are distinct. Okay? Like Wherever I Fall, or I'd Give Anything for Someone to Say. So while there are very samey songs in that, at least there are those that are distinct, and you can pick them out. And yes, they alter the story, making Cyrano a little person as opposed to someone with a big nose. They don't do it in the verse. but they keep it consistent with the themes of the story, and they don't chicken out with the tragic ending. So if you want to see this movie done right, go watch Cyrano. But this thing is an abomination. It is an abomination and a slap in the face to everything. Oh, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the Love and Tyranny fan base to come at me for this one. And you know what? I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. This movie is garbage. It is absolute bullshit garbage. Nobody's heard of it. Nobody's listened to it. And I want it to stay that way. Okay? Yeah, fuck this movie. So, let's wrap this up because otherwise I'm just going back into my anger spiral. Okay? So, final grade for Juliet and Romeo. It's a fucking F. It is an F for fuck this movie. Okay? That is what it is. So, and well bloody deserved. Huh. And yet, I feel somewhat better. Let no one ever tell you catharsis isn't a thing. So, there we have it. There it is. Enjoy this bonus episode, because like I say, I'm not waiting for Thursday. I've already got an episode scheduled for Thursday. This one's dropping whenever I feel like it. Whenever I get it edited, the minute it's done, it's going up. So, enjoy this bonus episode. Thank you for coming along with me. Thanks for listening to me rant. I hope you enjoyed listening to me rant. So thanks a lot. We'll see you later. And as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.